Miami would be way better if you could take trains to work.
Every city in America, we've decided as a country we're going to be a roads country instead of being a train country. We should be a train country.
Remember Tom Skerritt in Singles?
Yes.
When Campbell Scott made the entire presentation about public transportation in Seattle, and they did a close-up of Tom Skerritt's sort of yellowed, crooked teeth, and he said, people like their cars.
I spend so much time in my car, and I'm done with it. Yeah. I don't want to be driving anymore. It's enough.
You just have to learn how to be efficient in your car.
What does that mean? Actually, you know what? I would say
you can return calls, you can listen to music, you can listen to podcasts, you can catch up on content. You can pass the time by actually working in your car.
I do that. I would say I do that. I make a lot of calls. I would say podcasting, cramming material that I eventually steal for this program is a very important part of my drive into work. I
love a good call on a car ride.
Yeah,
Except Stugotz.
Stugotz?
Except for the fact that when you drive, you learn where the dead zones are. Driving from Plantation down to Marlins Park, there was always a dead zone when you're going from 595 to 95.
Right the exchange.
The entrance near the exchange, near the airport, and you know that the call is going to die there. And so you try to time your conversation so that you're not saying something important or someone else is saying something important. And so it always gets interrupted and you have to wait and you're trying to merge to maybe get to the express lanes. What a nightmare. I do not miss that at all. I actually did that last week when I was driving down to the studio and the same thing happened and I'd forgotten about the dead zone and it has not been fixed.
It was a reminder of old times. I'm exactly the same. Although, Chris, you mentioned being on the phone with Stugotz. One of the things that I enjoy about being on the phone with Stugotz is that he will talk for 3 straight minutes. And so I can go down the elevator, get delivery, lose the call in the elevator, regain the call getting out of the elevator, and get back to my apartment without ever having to say anything other than, yep. Mm-hmm.
We used to do that with Scott Boras. When Scott Boras would call about one of his players, we would put him on speaker, and we'd be, my office was next to Larry's office or Mike Hill's office, the GM, and we'd call on speaker in the GM's office. Then we'd go to my office, and we would just hang out, and we'd, whatever, have a drink or just talk about something else going on with the game or with the sport or with something or just nonsense. And then every once in a while, the assistant in the baseball operations department would just say, still going. And so we know we wouldn't have to go back into the office. And we would never, ever listen to anything he was saying because it was just absolute poppycock. And he never knew because he doesn't breathe. And anyone who's dealt with Boras knows that when you call him on the phone or when he calls you, you're looking at 20 minutes of just wasted time. So we learned to do other stuff. So Stugotz seems like a mini Scott Boras in that regard.
Mm-hmm. What are the origins of your dislike for Scott Boras? I know we've talked a lot about it before, but the Jose Fernandez thing, you're certainly well within your right to hold that against him. But I feel like that started
a thing, right? Don't dismiss that as a thing, right? That's a major, monumental proof of the type of person he is with what he did with Jose.
But I'm sure that animus started long before that. When can you say was the first time you're like, God, I hate this guy?
So hate's a strong word. I don't like using it. The first time that I knew I didn't want to deal with him was the first time he went over my head, and it was just offensive to me as I was trying to get my feet wet as the president of a team, having gotten the job from nepotism and wanting to prove that I was able to do the job. And when someone goes over your head, you take it personally until you realize that Scott Boras only will deal with owners, and that's how he gets what he wants. He appeals to insecure octogenarians who think that he knows what it takes to win, and they don't. So the first time was the first player, and I guess I'd have to go back and see who the first player. Oh, by the way, it very well may be Charles Johnson.
Wow,
CJ.
I must have had someone with the Expos, but dealing with him on Charles Johnson's no-trade clause in 2002 was an absolute nightmare, getting him moved out, which we had to do because he was overpaid by Dombrowski, as well as Preston Wilson. We had to get rid of both of them. And he wouldn't let Charles Johnson go to Colorado without getting an extra $1 million. And he's just that way. It's really shocking the way he operates and the manipulation he does and the lies he tells. It's just amazing.
I don't know why I'm thinking this, but I imagined all agents are like that. Like on the pie chart of all agents.
He sounds like he's really good at his job.
Like how slimy are most agents? Are most agents more decent than we'd expect by the way you talk about Boris?
So it's degrees of indecency, right? And so when you have that, you need a frame of reference. He is the worst of the worst, but it's a long list of agents who will mislead you and manipulate you. But Boris does it in a way that is so over the top that he does not have the respect of any other agents, any other players, anybody in management, anyone in the commissioner's office, nobody. And that's what's so amazing, that he's been able to have such power and keep getting good players and keep getting bailed out by owners and continue to get players when people just don't want to have to deal with him. But they do. It's really one of the great mysteries in baseball, actually.
But he's great at his job. You just don't like kind of the way he goes about doing.
Say he's
job.
great, David.
Like if I was a player, I would want him to be my agent because it sounds like he always gets the best for his clients. It's just not always in the best interest of the team.
So it's funny you say that, because there are players who don't want to be represented by Boris because they recognize that Boris is only interested in Boris and not in the player, where the majority of agents actually are more interested in the player. That doesn't mean that they don't lie, manipulate, and steal. What it means is that they are going to pay attention to the player no matter what. And Boris is famous for, if you can't help me make money, then I am no longer interested in you. And players who are not the best of the best, who have Boris and then don't become the best of the best, let's say, they end up leaving him because they get totally ignored, like in a Glenn Close type of way. And that's sort of his modus operandi.
David, we've had Mike Schur on the show every day for like the last 3 weeks doing stats of the day, and he insists on telling us that he thinks that Shohei Ohtani is not long for the Los Angeles Angels. Do you agree?
No, I don't, because I still believe that the Angels have an agreement in place when they signed him, an extension agreement in place, which would be in direct violation of the order of the commissioner. But I think that there's a couple things at play here. What you're reading a lot is people saying he's one of the best pitchers in baseball, so he could make $40 million a year as a pitcher. He's one of the best hitters in baseball, so he can make $40 million a year as a hitter, hitting 30 home runs, etc. So he's an $80 million player. But that's not the math that teams are going to do. It is not realistic to believe, and it's been 2 years in a row now, I grant you, but it is not realistic to believe that he can continue to be one of the best pitchers and one of the best hitters going forward in a long-term situation. The possible change that has taken place is the sale of the Anaheim Angels of Los Angeles. And if there is some sort of side deal between Artie Moreno and Shohei Ohtani, there is a question. That side deal would not be part of the acquisition of the Angels. The new owner would not be assuming that side deal. It would not be enforceable. So a new owner would not have to give a contract to Ohtani the way Moreno may have to give if they had such a deal, which I still believe they did. So the question is, does Ohtani want to leave Anaheim? And my answer is yeah, because I know he wants to win, and he realizes that winning in Anaheim is so unlikely. But I'm not sure that he'll get an offer higher than what Moreno would have agreed to. So it's going to be very interesting to watch what happens with the sale of the team and then with Ohtani's free agency.
Is there scuttlebutt about this side deal, or is it just
this freaking guy?
What?
Scuttlebutt.
Scuttlebutt's a good word. Is there scuttlebutt about the Ohtani side deal? Like, what on what basis?
Inside baseball.
Yeah.
Right? The commissioner sent a letter to all teams saying, when you are negotiating with Shohei Ohtani, keep in mind you may only offer him an initial deal in the slot that you have for international Japanese signings. You may not agree to pay him any more money, period. And if we find that you have, you will be punished. And when he signed with the Angels, every team with whom we spoke, we all thought the same thing, that the Angels had cut a side deal.
How common is that? And, like, did you guys ever cut side deals?
So we cut side deals with international players back when we were manipulating the system, which other teams did. When you wanted to get a player but could only pay a player a certain amount of money, we'd give the player's brother money. We'd give other players related to the same Busconi money, and we'd say, hey, that money's really not for you. You got to give it to the first player. And that is completely against the rules and not allowed, and every team does it. And baseball has tried to crack down on that, and they've done a sort of decent job on it by making these slots, but the international draft is really meant to eliminate that practice. But it's the old story, right? It's the Bucks have don't the Bucks have the brother of Giannis on their team?
Yeah. I think there are several other Antetokounmpos in the NBA.
Right. Is the brother good? The one who's on the Bucks?
No, he is an elite whip the towel and stir up the crowd and energy guy on the bench. But
Hall of Famer, that one.
He is on the team. I presume there's someone who values his skill set in some way, but no, he does not play very much.
I would assume the only skill set that is valued is the fact that it makes Giannis happy to have his brother around, right? And so there are circumstances. The Marlins did that. Do you guys remember? He was going to be the big thing. Everyone was so excited when Jeter signed him. It's either Victor Mesa or Victor Mesa.
Victor Mesa, and then they signed Victor Mesa Jr., which was his younger brother, who I think is doing better than Victor Mesa. So I think the throw-in is doing better than the original Victor Mesa, who I believe is dating someone who did a song with Pitbull.
I remember that was 3 days of headlines.
Victor Mesa's dating a friend of Pitbull's?
I think he's dating someone who collaborated on a song with Pitbull years ago. No, not Café con Leche.
Her name's Lisa.
Well, because the thing is
Nicole Jam.
I got excited, so I started following all the Victors, and now.
Oh, what? Hey! Why?
I'm just getting like updates on what's going on with the Pensacola Wahoos, you know,
the Wahoos.
So it's not working out how I thought. Yeah.
Griffin
The blue,
Conrad's on that
it's the
team.
Blue Wahoos. Yeah.
So, David, did any of those like under the table payments like ever pay off for you guys? Like, is there anyone of note that it's like, oh, well, we were able to land this person because of this side money?
I cannot think of any, right? It doesn't often work. It's so hard when you sign international players. It's very rare that they hit. That's why you try to sign as many as you can. That's why the teams with the deep pockets who can, in the wild, wild west of yonder, they're able to sign all these players and give all this money on the hope that one of them hits. And when you go above your pay grade and really stretch like the Marlins did with Victor Squared, you're really taking a chance. But then people tend to forget about it. But by the way, that's money that was misspent. And I'm not saying that we didn't misspend money. Of course we did. And all teams do. But it is such a crapshoot, which is why owners want the international draft and they want slotting because they don't want to have to overpay for young players out of the Dominican where the odds of them making it really are so slim.
If this is an indelicate question and it's places we don't talk about at parties, please tell me to buzz off. But how logistically does it work to pay a brother? Right? So like, is there like a separate LLC that Jeffrey owns and they pay him for contractor services? How logistically does it work? And if you
Venmo?
Yeah, right. How does this work?
No, you sign the player and they're under contract to your organization with a signing bonus that is absolutely not related to their talent, right? If they were just a guy who was being signed, you'd say, wow, that's a $10,000 sign. Well, wait a minute, we have him for $125,000. Well, no one's going to argue with us because we can just say that we evaluate him as a $125,000 player. You give him $125,000, wink, wink. $115,000 of that is being sent from the player to his brother.
So it's never a non-baseball thing. It's always like if you're signing a player, you're signing his brother and paying them a ridiculous amount way above your evaluation.
Correct.
Okay,
yeah, you don't sign like a cousin who works in banking.
Right.
Right.
Or I would presume that like, because I think sometimes in like soccer transfers, there's always like a million will go to the agency, and the agency gets paid for scouting services or something like that. Like that's way that like some teams get away with sneaking money around on transfer fees when they have to be financially compliant.
So baseball is pretty good about that, about making sure that doesn't happen, right? Where you're signing someone to a services contract that's not baseball related. There's sort of one thing. It's like the code. It's the secret handshake within baseball that when you're going to break the rules, at least give the money to someone who owns a glove and cleats.
What I guess would be the best or worst example of that, of using some other alternate means to stash money somewhere. Is this the best version of it, or are there other examples of like minor cheating that is within the code of baseball?
Oh, I like that. Hold on. Minor cheating within the code of baseball.
Correct.
There's so much cheating that goes on within baseball that sign stealing is just like the tip of the iceberg. So these organizations, what they do is we sit around thinking about ways to cheat. It's sort of like being an IRS lawyer, where your job is to figure out how to violate or work within the code and take advantage of holes in the rules, if you will, to make your tax payments lower. So we would sit around and we would look at the signing rules, we'd look at slot rules, and we would manipulate and try to figure out what is the most money we can give to a certain player. Can we figure out a way to get someone in the organization before they're old enough? So that was a very big thing. Fred Ferreira he discovered Vladimir Guerrero, and he would hide players until they were old enough. That's what teams used to do. You would take a player, you'd basically bribe them by saying, we're going to feed you rice, beans, and plantains, but you may not leave our building. Like, people can come visit you. Visiting hours are like 8 to 8, but until you turn 16, you may not leave. So no other teams are going to see you. Nobody's going to have a chance to sign you, and you are going to be an expo the first second that we're allowed to sign you. So that kind of stuff definitely happens, and that's how you deal with the age issues. There's a lot that goes on when you're scouting high school players.
Sounds like you're sequestering minors, David.
Sequestering, it's sort of kidnapping minors. I mean, that's really what it is, right? You are, by the way, don't even get me started about the Dominican and what we do to players there. It's horrific. You are giving players the dream of Major League Baseball, the carrot of Major League Baseball. You are not caring about their education, notwithstanding all of the teams now who say we give them English classes and we teach them how to be janitors or plumbers or electricians. It's a bunch of horse hockey. They are there inside the academies doing baseball. That's it. And they are trying to figure out of the 50 people who they're going to give a visa to, because those visas are very difficult to get, and you don't just hand them out like candy corn. And the visas are how you get players from the Dominican into your minor league system in the U.S. And when you only have a certain number of visas, it's basically like the game of Survivor. Who is going to be the one who is, yes, horse hockey. That's Colonel Potter. It's a great expression. So how are you going to figure out which players are going to make it? And what you do is you play them until their knuckles are raw, and then you take a chance. And you bring over a player who doesn't speak English, who doesn't know anything about how to acclimate to the United States, and it's just not nice. But on the other hand, it's not our job. And I never viewed it as my job to be nice. These kids want a shot at a better life, and we're giving them that shot. And it's sort of like a lottery pick.
David, give us your thoughts on the Players Association trying to unionize the minor leagues.
They're going to rue the day. I'll tell you that. And this is not me being against unionization, although unions, as we all know, started to protect migrant workers. And the whole view of minor league players is they don't get paid enough, they don't have good enough food, they're eating Chick-fil-A on Sundays that's a day old, and their salaries are low. What?
Closed on Sunday.
I know, but they're saying it's a day old.
Oh, that's true. Aaron, carry on.
Stick in the fridge.
Yeah.
I had you.
Carry on
there, Cody. It's all right. They'll edit that out. Do we never want you to?
No, we're leaving it in.
We're leaving it in, yeah.
Sorry, that's right. I forgot. You're the conductors today. So,
Choo-choo.
What are we talking about?
Unionizing the minor leagues.
Oh, so
ruining the day.
So these players, right? They think that by joining the Major League Baseball Players Association, that somehow they're going to get better represented. Their working conditions are going to improve. Everything is going to be great. What they don't realize is they're all going to lose their jobs. Because the only people that we care about in the minor leagues are the people who are going to be in the major leagues. The rest of you are just fillers. You might as well leave and go start the rest of your life with whatever job you're going to take. But we are using you to field a team so that our prospects can prosper. Now, what about the players who are drafted low, who are not prospects, who end up being good because they work their ass off and get lucky? A.J. Ramos is the example I gave on a recent Nothing Personal. There will never be another A.J. Ramos because there will be fewer minor league teams, and a low, like a 20th round draft pick is not going to get the benefit of any doubts. And he's not going to have a spot on the team because we're only going to have a team that has prospects, surefire prospects. So he'll have to go to an independent league, an unaffiliated team, and try to get good against inferior competition, inferior coaching, inferior development, and then maybe get a shot. And that will be also few and far between. So therefore, by unionizing, what the minor league players are doing is they are basically unioning themselves out of work.
So basically, you think that Major League Baseball, as a response to this, will shrink the minor league system. They will not have, let's say, 4 teams. They'll have 2. They, will shrink the size of the draft maybe from 40 rounds to 20 because if you don't have as many positions to fill, then you'll just make it smaller. Wouldn't all that stuff be collectively bargained?
So you can't, right? So the collective bargaining, that does not get into number of teams, right? Like there's nothing that says that when they go from 25 to 26 players in Major League Baseball, that gets collectively bargained. But when baseball deals with the NLRB, right now, let's talk about where we are. 30% of minor leaguers have said we're going to sign a card that says we want to join the Players Association. They then sent a letter to baseball saying, hey, would you like to recognize these new 5,000 members and have the MLBPA represent these players? That would be terrific if you'd say yes, Major League Baseball. We talked about this. We rehearsed this. There's no way baseball says yes to this. Then players then have to go to the NLRB. And the NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, will oversee a vote of all of the minor league players, and over 50% of them have to vote in the affirmative to form a union. Then they will have a union. But all during that time, there is nothing that stops Major League Baseball from contracting or from changing the way they run minor league baseball. Because remember, they are in charge of minor league baseball now. That's a change from 10 years ago. There's no minor league baseball association. Major League Baseball runs all of the minor leagues. So they are going to work quickly, and they're going to make sure that they're not going to have 5 minor league teams full of unionized players. It is not a sustainable model. And then in the alternative, what they're going to do is they're going to go to the player reps on their team, like Francisco Lindor, who is opening his mouth about being pro-union and getting these players in, and saying, listen, if we have to have 5 teams and we have to pay minor league players more, it is a zero-sum game. And the major league members of your union, the middle and lower class members of your union, the minimum guys, the arbitration guys, we are going to squeeze them because we are not going to spend more money notionally. So if you want to spread it out to 5,000 more guys, have at it. Good luck to you.
So do you not think that if Major League Baseball... Jesus Christ.
I'm sorry. I just saw on NFL Network, most favorable duo week 1, Tua and Tyreek Hill. Football is back. David, who do you have coach of the year NFL this year? Who do you got? That's a good question. It's what the people want today. I'm sorry.
I'm thinking that I actually led Nothing Personal today with football and talking about
you got
the business lines, the storylines, and then pick of the day was Bills 2.5 over the Rams.
Oh shit!
Wow, that is major
that
controversy.
Is horse hockey.
Controversy
Horse
in the studio.
Hockey.
Oh my God!
Rams is a live doggy at home.
So you're taking the points because they're the defending champions, getting points at home. It's the biggest sucker bet of the year.
Oh no!
Wait! You think the Rams are the biggest sucker bet of the year?
Yes,
I
do. Do you have a feeling about defending champions? What's your feeling there?
I do. Do you remember the Heat game? Coca could not come up with this on the fly because I thought of it while recording the show this morning. Do you remember the game 1 of the Heat season?
Yeah, they got blown up by Chicago.
Yes.
Yeah.
What year was that?
That
2007.
was 2007. Yeah.
The year after.
They got their ass kicked in their home opener.
I was there.
I was there too.
I remember after they lost to the Mavericks, the Heat did in 2011. I think they went to Dallas after the labor shortened season, and they started in December, and they absolutely destroyed Dallas on their home opener after they got their championship rings. So you think that's a real thing? You think bet against the team that's celebrating the championship on opening night?
Yes, it is that you are going to win more than you're going to lose, and that is completely anecdotal. But you are going to win more than you're going to lose. It's not a stat of the day. But the defending champions getting rings or raising flags at home, I am going the other way.
Wow.
I want to go back to something that we spoke about earlier, which is the subject of players from the Dominican, because I do think not just the Dominican, but Cuba as well, although that has its own obviously set of landmines, is a really interesting subject matter because so many baseball players come from that area of the world. So if I were to just ask you, take me from scouting to whatever it is you have to do in order to convince a particular player to come to your team. What is the process to get a player from a Caribbean country or from somewhere else in the world to the Miami Marlins? Or at least when it was I know the rules are different now because it's an international draft.
Into the organization or actually to the United States?
Both, I suppose.
Because those are two different things. So what you do is you have workouts down because there's no draft, teams hold workouts. And there's something called the Busconi. Busconi is the worst type of agent. They are people in charge of all these young kids. They're sort of like the guys from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. What was that Academy Award-winning movie? Oh, my God. Directed by Danny Boyle, and it won Best Picture.
Slumdog Millionaire, Jeremy says in the chat. Thank you, Jeremy.
Yes. Thank you, Jeremy. Remember in Slumdog Millionaire, you had the people who took the kids and would take their eye out and cut off their arm because they're better at begging. You get more money if you are disabled. Well, that is like the worst type of Busconi. The second worst type of Busconi are people who take all these kids and they sort of take them around. They give them old gloves and old shoes and say, play baseball, sometimes even bare feet. And then you go to different teams, the Busconi does, and you say, here's all my players. Come watch them play. And then you see someone who has a chance to be good, and they say, well, I'm happy to have him signed, but then you've got to take my 4 other people because then I get to go to the other kids and the other parents and say, look, I'm the best Busconi around. I get money for even the players who suck. So you sign a bunch of players, they go to your academy, and it used to be that having the best academy in the Dominican mattered, and that's why all these teams and the Marlins just opened an academy, and it became a big deal, like, come look at how nice your bunk bed is, and look at how great the pot is where we make rice, and look at these classrooms, and look at the TV that we have for you to watch at night. You're going to love it here. We have 3 square meals a day. We have great coaching staffs, etc. So they come and they do workouts, and then there's a Dominican league where you play other Dominican teams of major league teams because all 30 teams have Dominican teams. And then you have a hitting coach, a pitching coach, you have a scout, you have a manager, and you pay these guys in your organization, you pay them bupkis, like $5,000 or $10,000 to do this job because the cost of living is so small. And then on top of that, you then scout them and decide each year who is going to be brought over to the States to spring training. And that's the ultimate carrot, like in a dog race that's held out for these kids, is just getting a ticket to the U.S. So the process is a long one, and it is an absolute failure for the majority of the kids. And the Busconis don't care because they get paid either way because anyone, remember the Yasiel Puig Busconi situation where he was like going to be kidnapped and murdered because he didn't give some of his big contract to his old Busconi. He didn't want to do it. Do you guys remember that?
Vaguely.
Yeah, it was something, right? So when a player hits it big as a Dominican player, they're still paying off their Busconi because the Busconi gets a percentage of all future wages. That's the deal they cut because they're investing in players, the majority of whom don't make it.
David, enough of this shit. Can you give us your head coach of the year? I mean, geez, it's football. It's the first week of football. I just need, who's your coach of the year? NFL. Give it to me.
So
and rookie of the year.
This is going to sound totally crazy because everyone is calling this, but I'm having the Bills as my Super Bowl winner, and I'm having the coach as the head coach.
McDermott, yeah.
McDermott. And I'm going all Bills, making up for their 4 Super Bowl losses in a year. And my biggest disappointing team, I'm very worried about the Dolphins.
Wow.
Look at him. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's
your
doing.
Mouth.
You know you're
I know you're upset, and I don't mean to do this during the local hour, but it's basically I have a syndrome, right, where every year I'm excited for the Dolphins, and I lived in Florida from 2002 to 20, and I'm almost positive they didn't win a playoff game during my entire time in Florida. Is that possible?
The Dolphins did not win a playoff game the entire time you were here. That's correct.
So I just have been scorned by them so many times, and they're so excited, but they've been excited every year. They sign all these free agents. God knows Stephen Ross spends a ton of money, but it just doesn't work. And now they've got this head coach who they didn't want to be their head coach, and now they're pretending they love him as a head coach. They had a whole different plan in mind, and I just don't think it's going to work.
David, what is your review for this week? What movie, TV show, documentary, or whatever piece of content is
Were you
the
up
subject
at
of your review?
2:50 a.m. watching tennis last night? Anybody?
No, but I did see the highlight of Carlos Alcaraz with his tremendous backhand winner. It was tremendous.
Well, it wasn't just a backhand winner. What about the shot that he hit behind his back?
Well, yeah, so it was the whole sequence, right? So he's running to his right, hits it
Right.
behind his back, and then comes back way away from where he hit it behind his back. Somehow the other guy returned and then comes back with a backhand that was a beautiful winner.
Have you ever tried that shot in any racket sport like ping pong or?
What, behind the back? No.
Behind
no.
the back.
No, I have not. It seems, honestly, Amin,
Yeah.
a little look at me, Louie.
Amin is here.
Amin has been here. I've been silently watching the proceedings from my.
I miss hearing your voice and seeing your facial expressions
look
as
at
I'm
that.
saying stuff that gives you complete sort of disgust.
Oh, you haven't had that many disgusting things this morning.
But anyway,
Anyway.
behind the back seems
I
look at
like
me, Louie.
trying those shots. Like the one like Federer
gonna
can
play
do it
this out?
between his legs. Mm-hmm. Like if you get on a tennis court or ping pong and you try to do it between your legs or behind your back, it's just impossible. So the U.S. Open went until 2:50. I've been on a major tennis kick, which I am once a year during the U.S. Open, during the majors, sometimes during Wimbledon as well. And so I watched the new documentary on Showtime called McEnroe. And I've known McEnroe because his son with Tatum O'Neal was taught by my wife at the time at a school called Rodef Shalom, which is a Jewish day school in New York. And believe me, Tatum O'Neal and John McEnroe are goyim with a capital G, but they sent their kids to a Jewish school. So one day there's a happening going, and I go to the playground where the kids are, and McEnroe's there, and we're talking about whatever we're talking about. So I've just loved John McEnroe always. I loved him as a player before I knew him, and I've loved him since. This documentary on Showtime that just came out goes deep into his life, into his anger, into the relationship with his father. And I have a connection there where a good friend of mine growing up lived on the same floor as McEnroe Sr. on a building on Fifth Avenue. So we'd go have play dates and we would see the McEnroe family. And it was always so interesting the way the fathers acted in tennis, like Richard Williams or like John McEnroe Sr., although you don't call him John McEnroe Sr., he's just John McEnroe, the father. And it happens in baseball, too, where fathers can ruin careers of their kids. Like Gabby Hernandez's career got ruined by his father. He was a pitcher we had, and the father was just overbearing. And John McEnroe had tremendous demons because of the way his father was. He was also his agent and manager. People may forget how many Grand Slams he won, how good he was, some of the epic battles with Bjorn Borg. And for the first time, John McEnroe seems not just relatable, but vulnerable. And so this documentary for 102 minutes will teach you something and make you realize that what you see on the court is not always what you get off the court, and too often we forget that.
Hit the sound, please, Chris.
Look at me,
The documentary sounds amazing. I did not need all the details about your intimate relationship with the McEnroe family.
Exposition.
Well, so the reason that I did that, I mean, and I don't know what sound you had played because you guys, your whole show is just one big flex. But having said that, the reason that I did that is to say that I had the occasion to not just judge someone from what I was seeing on TV or what was being written, but also the ability to judge what you see personally. And so often people think they know someone because they see them on TV or they read articles about them, when in fact you're totally wrong about that person. That person can be emotional or sensitive or not robotic or not all business.
I feel like we're talking about someone specific right now.
I have no idea what you're saying. You know, if you're going to be late and enter a conversation, you may not have it right.
Oh, wait a minute.
Maybe if you won more, I'd show up on time.
Oh, no!
Hold on, let me get my ring. Hold on one second.
Oh,
Let's just see if I can get my ring.
What you got now?
He's actually going to
Hold
get
on.
this. He's
Hold
left
on.
the baseball mitt.
I'm gonna go get my WNBA championship ring.
Oh,
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, yeah. Where's
2007 Phoenix
Hold on, let me
Mercury.
see
Left
if I
at
can
home.
get my
Travel
rings.
with it?
Do I travel with it?
Wow.
See if I can get that.
Why do you have 5 of them?
Why is it a commemorative kind of, Cracker Jack?
Cracker Jack.
Cracker
Come on,
Jack.
that's
box.
That look like a Cracker Jack box.
They're like the
I
box
mean,
tops. You trade in the box tops, and then you get like the set of the replicas.
Oh, yeah, Dakota ring.
You cannot be serious. Oh, that's a John McEnroe. You cannot be serious.
Rookie of the
This
year?
is what we gave every player. This is what their ring came in. And this is what my ring came in.
Why
But there's 5 of them in there.
So that's a great question. We had an A ring, a B ring, and a C ring.
Oh, the tears.
There were tiers, right? The A ring went to players who we wanted to give it to, and to executives we wanted to give it to. The B ring went to some players who were not active during the playoffs, let's say, or who had a cup of coffee with the team that particular year. The C ring went to like interns in the front office and other people with not as much experience in the front office or somewhere else within the organization. And so I have an A ring, a B ring, and a C ring. But I also bought at the time, because I was the president, so I had the ability to, I bought an extra ring because I wanted to have 3 rings, 3 A rings to give to my kids when I croak, right? I didn't want them to fight over the rings. And so I figured it may not happen again. So it's 2 A rings plus a watch ring, which Jeffrey bought for the top executives in the team. He had 10 watch rings made.
What's a watch
One
ring?
of these rings is actually, the top comes off and it becomes a watch.
Wow.
What?
How much would you sell that for?
Gonna give it to his kids.
Careful.
It depends.
Yeah, but
right?
don't put that price out there.
No, I guess not.
Because he was just talking about all this stuff with his family. I want to give it to my kids, and then as soon as I brought him money, he's like, "I'm listening."
I'm not a no. I'll just say that.
Right.
But no, it's I cannot imagine. Listen, if it meant food on the table, or if it meant an education or tuition or whatever it was, I guess I would. But I'd rather keep working and not have to sell the World Series rings. I'd rather the kids sell them.
David, is that common practice that not all the players get A rings? I was under the impression that the players, the coaches, certain ops execs get A rings. B rings go to like other ops executives, the training staff, et cetera, and then C rings goes to like ticket sales and like all the other people, broadcasters, to make them feel part of it. But like, we're not spending money on you guys. You're telling me that you guys gave some players B rings.
You're damn right.
So Andy Fox didn't get an A ring. He had 100 at bats for that team. Come on, man, those are good pinch hits.
September
By
call-ups.
the way, it's a great question. I'd have to go back to the list and the ring rules. Larry Beinfest and I created the ring rules, and Andy Fox is a good example. I believe we would have given him an A ring because my daughter had a crush on him.
That is ridiculous.
Did they know? Wait,
How do you not give all the active players the top ring? That's absurd.
No, if you're active on the World Series team, of course you got
Andy
an A
Fox, I
ring.
believe, got some pitch hit bats on that team.
Yeah, he was
100
active.
AB.
He was part of the great bench, actually.
Big Andy Fox
Him and
guy.
Mike Redmond, Lenny Harris. Like Toby
Prime
Borland
time.
is the case that we've talked about during the pandemic, where he got a B ring. He then grieved it, and he never got the A ring. He didn't deserve the A ring. He was up, for a few moments. So anybody, how you sign players? Like, I want to say we had a guy, God, I'm going to have to go back. Was Gerald Williams on the 03 team at some point?
I think so.
The guy, Jeter's really good friend, who just tragically passed away. He was a Marlin for a moment.
Yeah,
and
he was on that team.
Year.
He was on that team.
Okay.
He was age 36 season. He had 35 plate appearances.
So he would be someone who would not qualify for an A ring.
But hold on. So like was there ever a scenario where like 2 players are getting the rings together and one of them gets the A ring and one of them gets their B ring and they're like, well, what the hell? This does not look the same. Like Marlins is spelled wrong.
No, it's not that. It's the number of diamonds. So I'm happy to show you because I have an A ring and a B ring here. I can show you the difference.
Show us the rings.
Please do.
The rings of power.
So Gerald Williams didn't get an A ring, but 3 of your children will.
Okay, so if you look at the A ring, if you're watching this wherever you can watch it.
There we go.
So the diamonds, see how the diamonds are where the Marlins are?
Yes.
That's all diamonds?
A lot of diamonds.
Now.
Let's see that B ring. It's got an A diamond.
No diamond.
Yeah.
Oh, No diamonds. Wow, it's just
Marlins,
gold.
I don't know how to show it to you,
man.
but the Marlins, there's no diamonds.
That's a Super Saturday giveaway if I've ever seen
Yes,
that.
absolutely. Bullshit.
David, I don't know if you've been watching Welcome to Wrexham on
the C ring.
Oh,
Sorry,
well,
let me
look at
just
this.
do the C while we're doing it.
Look at that.
So
Oh,
the
yeah.
C
The
ring
G
wow,
one's a
look at
bit
that.
smaller, isn't it?
both
Yes.
smaller and no diamonds.
Oh, no diamonds.
Yep.
Okay.
No diamonds in the Marlins, so that's ABC.
Who would
And
get
if
the
we're
C?
here-
Where's the C going to?
Yeah, I
Community
mean, you had
relations.
it right? It's
Yeah.
ticket sales
Ticket
and
sales.
people
Len
who had
Casper.
just joined
Wouldn't-
the company.
wouldn't they have to-
No, Len Casper got a ring, for sure. I
remember when I was
I'd have to
working
go
at
back.
790, I think after the 2012 championship, because we were
The
a
flagship?
partner. We
You
were
guys
the
were the
flagship.
flagship.
Yeah, we were the flagship.
I think we were offered the chance to
Oh, no,
purchase
Yes.
C rings.
They do that.
Yeah.
It's almost like the class ring, right? You get that Jostens form, and you got to fill out your ring size and everything.
Yeah.
Oh.
$6.99.
So this is the watch ring.
Okay.
Okay.
So that is the A ring. Now, if you can see, there is a
Like a little click
Button.
thing.
Yeah, no,
there's
Yeah.
a button that
Button.
protrudes, and when you hit it,
Oh, look, that's nice.
Wow.
it opens to a clock.
Is it active right now? Is it? I can't
What
see
time
the
is it on
hands.
It is inactive.
You got to get a battery for that, man.
And then it says, with appreciation, Jeffrey Loria.
Oh
Oh,
wow!
that's nice. Yeah.
That's really cool.
So this
Very
one
generic,
is
that,
probably,
yeah.
How many of those were made?
I believe 10,
10.
and that's it.
Wow, that's amazing. Hey, David, have you been watching Welcome to Wrexham on Hulu?
So only are more than the first 2 episodes out?
Yeah, I believe
Okay, so-
episodes 5 and 6 dropped yesterday.
Okay, then I'm going to start watching. So my general rule is, like, if it's a 10-episode arc, I'm going to, and they do it once a week. I don't love the once-a-week thing because I'm so used to binging, so I will wait for there to be a critical mass of episodes, and I'm definitely going to watch it and review it.
So-
And I'll have them done for next week if you can be there and actually on time.
Wow. Okay, easy, Chip Kelly or Brian Kelly. Damn,
Brian Kelly.
That's a fine.
That's a fine.
David, so the reason I ask is there's a scenario where they sign a player from one of the higher leagues, and they have to pay him a considerable amount because he's dropping leagues for them. You know, he's dropping divisions. And they show what I believe to be something that we never get in Hard Knocks or any other of these behind-the-scenes embedded TV shows around teams, which is the other players kind of half joking but half kind of serious about, well, he's making all the money, have him pick up the tab and all. Like, they're talking amongst themselves behind his back about the fact that he's getting all this money. And I didn't know if, the ring conversation made me think, have you ever witnessed live in front of you the player jealousy about compensation or something of that nature?
Every time we signed a player to a long-term deal, the players who wanted long-term deals would be upset about it, and they would comment and be jocular in the clubhouse, but it was always biting. So there was unbelievable jealousy in every clubhouse I've ever been in when certain players would get paid and other players would not, and they'd have to go year to year. So yes, and believe me, they all keep track. I cannot tell you the number of dinners I had with, and I'm not flexing, I'm just telling you, the number of dinners I had with Jose wondering why we were giving long-term deals to people and not to him. And when we told him that we had offered him one and he had turned it down, his response was, well, you weren't paying me enough. I said, but that's exactly the point, right? Like, if we're giving a long-term deal, we're doing it because we think it's a good deal for us and a good deal for you, not just a good deal for you. Right. And so players do pay attention to that because especially in baseball where it's all guaranteed, the long-term deal is what everybody plays for. No one wants to go year to year. They say they do. I'm going to bet on myself. They really, they want the money guaranteed to them.
What long-term deals did you guys give out? I'm kidding. Stan, I know.
They sucked, but we did a bunch of them.
Right.
That Chen contract must have ruffled some feathers.
It's funny that I think it did not because you forget about what it was like when we signed him. When we signed him, he was going to be and should have been the number 2. He was the best pitcher in the American League the year before, and we expected him to slide in right behind Jose, and we still had Yelich, Ozuna, and Stanton, and actually that signing was applauded. at the time. It just didn't work.
I agree. I remember being like, okay, maybe he could, but then right away, it was very quickly.
Well, his first start.
Yeah.
I was looking at him and I couldn't believe it. Like it was very tough that moment when you have a free agent signing, you're all excited, and of course it was a Boras signing, and we had to give him the extra year, and yada yada we did, and we weren't going to worry about it until later. You get to spring training, and they get on the mound, and you get to see them actually pitch like as your player, and you're looking, you're saying, this stuff does not look electric. No problem. It's spring training. It's going to get better. First spring training game. God, this is soft. Like some people, Josh Johnson used to throw a really hard ball. Not a hard, but just a heavy ball is what maybe you call it. Mm-hmm. And you just can tell that in a bullpen or in a spring training start. And Chen he threw slop, and it just looked terrible. And we had some players sort of commenting like, uh-oh. And then he starts a game in the regular season, and just, I don't have this for certain, but I believe his first start was just a disaster. That's at least my crazy recollection of it. And we just said to ourselves, we have a problem. And we did, and it was terrible. And he ended up he's famous now. I believe he was the highest paid player in 2020 in all of Major League Baseball, because the Marlins released him before COVID and therefore had to pay his entire $22 million salary, where they couldn't prorate it the way the other players got prorated. So he was the highest paid player, and he didn't pitch a inning for the Miami Marlins.
9 hits, 5 earned his first start versus Detroit.
Disaster.
David Samson.
That was a tough moment.
He joins us every Thursday here on the Le Batard Show. We appreciate the time, sir.
Have a good one. See ya.
Thanks.